This is Bev.
This is Jonas.
And this is Outlawed. So we were looking at our stats the other day, and maybe it doesn't surprise people that predominantly women listen to Outlawed. But one of our goals with the podcast was getting the bros activated.
Yeah.
You're a very excellent example of an activated bro.
Thanks.
I'm going to make you a t-shirt.
Activated bro. Power on.
But some bros feel like maybe this is like a women's issue. They don't want to get involved. They don't necessarily stand up, protest, get activated.
Well, I get it. I mean, it is uncomfortable, right? There are times when I, as a male provider or as a male advocate, don't necessarily feel like I have the ownership to be in the room. And in fact, it was one of my hesitations about being a co-host on the podcast.
But we got you through that situation.
Yeah, I've really leaned into it. I can mansplain my way out of anything. Brosplain. I think a repeated theme that was helpful for me in thinking about it was that I do care about this issue, and I have taken a lot of time to learn and try to be humble in terms of what I know and what I don't know. And it's important to have diversity in the voices who are advocating, are caring, are listening. And so maybe it makes people who sound like me more comfortable listening to a podcast than if it were just Bev or two female hosts. I don't know.
You've reiterated my argument very well.
Mm-hmm. Great. Power on. But we saw wisdom from others too.
We did, but
you made the most compelling argument. I'm not.
Thanks. Yeah. I'm also your boss, so I kind of made you do this. So I think with other progressive movements, if you just leave it to the people who are marginalized, to the people who are affected by the issue, it's hard to really make significant change.
So the school year's out over here.
Yep. Yeah. And we're both taking a little break from the podcast for our busy summer schedules.
While we're out, we have an ask for our audience.
You know, when we started this podcast, one of our goals was to help you, the listener, be a better expert when talking about abortion with people that you know and love, and particularly with people that maybe have differing views about abortion or unclear views about abortion. So that was our goal. It was a lofty goal.
Because it's really not easy.
It's not easy. We're curious about how you've used this content. And so we set up a hotline.
The Outlawed hotline is 919-442-8101. That's 919-442-8101. So we want your help. We need some stories of conversations that were difficult, that maybe you avoided, or were difficult and you had them. We want to learn lessons from you.
And then maybe there's something that's missing. Maybe there's information about abortion that we could provide that could help you have a better conversation. So we want to hear it all. 919-442-8101. So I think about some of the conversations that we've had where my mind has been changed or I've learned something new. And I'm someone who thinks about abortion and abortion research all the time. But there are some highlights when I think about things that I learned that really changed my frame. And one of those conversations was the conversation with Dr. Tanya Israel, where we talked about having tough conversations. And a lot of her work is around crossing the political divide and how to have more peaceful conversations.
One of the most uncomfortable things from her method and her research is listening. Yeah. And listening without trying to be right.
Right. Like really listening for understanding.
Your goal is to listen. The episode with Dr. Tanya Israel was our prep for Thanksgiving episode, Abortion, Family Style.
So the best thing that we can do is open it up to have somebody share with us where they're coming from. And so we have to say, you know, I really want to hear and I'm going to try to listen to try to understand you and, you know, not to convince you and jump down your throat. And then you actually have to do it. So the way that you do that is when somebody's speaking, rather than in your head thinking of all of the arguments that you're going to make to contrast with them and to win the argument, Instead, you're going to think, what are they really saying? And if I were going to summarize that and share it back, what might I say? It's like you're going to have a pop quiz. So you've got to prepare for it by really paying attention. And then when they're done speaking, that's what you do. You summarize back what you heard. And then they're like, oh, exactly. Then they feel seen and understood. And sometimes you can even say, oh yeah, can you tell me more? And draw them out some more and hear more about I think the best thing to ask people about are the meanings and experiences and values. So it's like, okay, when you say you're pro-life, what does that mean to you? And what kinds of values do you have that connects to? And what experiences have you had that led you to that view? That's a much better conversation than saying, where did you read that? Or what's the source of your statistics? That's not going to help us to achieve our goals. So if you just keep doing that and trying to understand them, then that's going to help to maintain the relationship. It's going to help you heal or find common ground. It's going to help you to understand. And it's actually also going to help you to persuade someone, because we can never persuade people if they don't trust us, if they don't see us as somebody who has something valuable to offer them. And they're never going to do that if we're coming on the attack.
We also talked to reproductive justice advocate and abortion storyteller Renee Bracey Sherman about the good abortion stories and the stories that get told around abortion. And I think she is an expert in storytelling and has a lot to share about how you can be involved in the reproductive justice movement.
And that was in the episode, What We Are Talking About When We Talk About Abortion.
I think it's beautiful that we've come such a long way in abortion storytelling, and that sharing has become a lot more consent-based and centering of the person who's had the abortion that is sharing their story. It's less focused on kind of fitting these within these narrow categories, but it does still happen. And the stories that get chosen to be presented by politicians or in, political ads, or you see in like a fundraising mailer or in a newspaper, those are all shaped by people's decisions of what is a story that we would always say as abortion storytellers, the bad C word, are most compelling. And this idea of compelling often focuses on, or it is aligned with stigma. What is a story that's going to get you to move and to think differently about abortion, and really to feel bad and pity the person who's having the abortion, rather than seeing them as a whole person who's making a decision for themselves. When I first had my abortion and I started sharing my abortion story, I was encouraged to play up the narrative that I had an abusive boyfriend and that he had been in jail and that I was, a teenager and I wasn't ready to become a parent. All of these things that as a listener, you're like, oh my gosh, teenagers shouldn't be parents. And oh my gosh, someone shouldn't have to have an incarcerated parent, that, you shouldn't be parenting with someone who's abusive. And while those things did factor into my decision, what happens is you get the audience to portray my boyfriend as like a villain, and not recognizing the larger situation and circumstances that are impacting his life and my own, and say that, well, Renee deserved an abortion because of these extenuating circumstances. And those are the circumstances in which an abortion is acceptable because you feel bad for me. Not that I was a whole person who said, I don't want to be pregnant and I deserve an abortion. And these things also happened, that whether or not those situations happened to me, I still deserved an abortion because I wanted one and I didn't want to be pregnant.
Some of the other episodes that stood out and ones that are near and dear to our heart include a rabbi, a pastor, and a doctor, where we talked to Reverend Katie Zay about Christianity and abortion. Katie, I'm curious from your faith, kind of what your interpretation of the Bible is around abortion.
I want you to speak for all Christians.
If you want me to talk specifically about Christian scriptures, there is a text that I pull into my own life that I think is very foundational. And some folks don't agree with me because it's not specifically an abortion text, but there's a story in the Gospels where a hemorrhaging woman, so we assume she's got some kind of gynecological bleeding that will not stop, and she is ostracized for it because she's not allowed to, move about society because of this bleeding. But she hears that this healer Jesus is coming through, and so she reaches out to touch the hem of his garment, and she immediately is healed. And Jesus goes, "Who touched me?" And she has this, I think, this moment of bravery, one, in reaching out, but also in deciding to say it was me and to share her story. And for me, that text is really everything that I need to know, because this woman disregarded the rules of her society that kept her sick, because she'd gone to doctors and it just made her sicker and poorer. And she reached out for the thing that she needed, and she was the catalyst for her own healing. I love that story because Jesus is not the protagonist. She is the catalyst for what she knows she needs, and he blesses her for it. And I think she heals herself and her community in telling her story, because I imagine that there are other people in this crowd maybe who, ostracized her or were suffering similarly. And so when I talk about like that example, I really think that again just tells us everything that we need to know, that people know what they need. And even if it's not allowed, they will still take the thing that they need. And in this story, she's blessed for it. So that's the story that I turn to as a model for how I'm called to be in the world, is to be one to say, what is it that you need for your own healing, and how can I be there to help you get it?
Just a quick reminder, just a quick break from the storyline. We do have a hotline that's set up that you can call and share your story about a difficult conversation that you had, and maybe how some of these tools helped you. Or maybe it's about a conversation that you haven't had yet that you're dreading. And why are you dreading it? What's going to be hard about it?
It's 919-442-8101. That's 919-442-8101. We have volunteers on the phones ready to take your message. If you want to pledge too, we'll take money. I also think back to the Helpers Part 2, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, when we talked with pilot and CEO Mike Bonanza, who leads the organization Elevated Access, about how his thinking changed in terms of what his engagement needed to be in making the world a better place.
And it's a particular call to action to all the bros out there that are listening to the podcast. So maybe you have a bro in your life. Have them listen to Mike Bonanza. He will open their mind.
Power on!
For a lot of men, we see some issues as like women's issues, or as white person, you might be like, well, that's a black people's, kind of thing to try to solve or whatever. Or they're the ones that should be advocating. It's like, yes, those people that are most affected should be the ones talking. Those are the people we need to listen to. But that doesn't mean that for me as a white man, doesn't mean that I can't do the work.
I think it would be really awesome to hear, for our audience to hear from a bro, why the pro-choice language is problematic.
Yeah. So, if you are someone who does not have the income to have a child, doesn't have the healthcare, when healthcare is getting more and more expensive and harder to access by itself, to raise a child healthily and safely, there are lots of things that make it not really a choice per se. You could say that they're not being forced to make a choice to not continue a pregnancy, but also if they're being pragmatic or practical about what's going on in their life, there are certainly people that would love to have a baby, but just know they aren't ready for a baby. They don't have the income or the household to bring a baby into. And it's not just about resources. It could be other factors too. It could even be thinking about what's going on in our country right now and be like, you know what, I don't want to bring a baby into this country. And so it's, as much as I might want to have a baby. And so it's really, choice just trivializes it, I think, because it's way more complex than that. For anybody that didn't enter into a pregnancy knowing that they wanted to have a child, the decision is complex, and it is not as simple as like, yes, I want to have a baby. No, I don't want to have a baby. There's a lot more factors into it than that, that really start to, in my mind, make it, it's not really about a choice. It's about like, this is the environment I'm in. This is the best decision I can make for myself.
I also think back to our conversation with Jenny Villavicencio, who is an all-trimester abortion provider. And I think a lot about the conversations that she had with her mom that had them both move a little bit on what they thought about the best way to carry out their values and how they thought about each other's values.
Yeah, and that's just one of my all-time favorite episodes, partially because Jenny's story is so compelling. And, it's interesting when someone goes from being an abortion protester to an all-trimester abortion care provider and still has the same values. And so that's if you want an episode to look to around all-trimester care, which is sometimes a very, hot button topic that gets people really ramped up about abortion. That's a great episode to listen to really diffuse some of the misinformation as well. The episode with Dr. Jenny Villavicencio is called The Tension of Opposites from season 1.
And then she had an unplanned pregnancy, which I had no idea about, right after my sister. And my father said, I don't think we can afford this. I think we need to have an abortion. And my mom said she thought about it for about 30 seconds and said, no, I can't do that. And she ended up having a devastating late second trimester miscarriage. And to this day, she believes that God punished her for considering having an abortion. I knew none of these things about my mother. And hearing that helped me understand the context in which she was viewing abortion. Her lived experience and her religion, her faith, her values, all of those things were coloring the way that she was viewing it. And it was like a lightning bolt to me. And I was like, of course you would feel differently about this. And then I will never forget this moment. I was standing in the C group of Southwest Airlines. So, waiting forever to get on in that cattle call. And I'm on the phone with her and we were talking about something else. I was going to a conference and she goes, I went with my friend to get an abortion one time. And I said, what? And she goes, yeah, when we were 15, it was illegal and she really needed one. And she asked me to go with her. And so we walked there together. And I begged her the whole time. I begged her not to do it, that I told her that I would help her, but we were both 15 and she knew that was not going to happen. And so I stood there and I held her hand while she had the abortion. And now I'm sobbing in the C group of Southwest Airlines, waiting to get on this plane because I now understand my mother to be a person who can hold someone's hand while they're doing something that she disagrees with, but show up for them. And I realized that that's what she was trying to do for me. Right? She was showing up for me in her way. And even though she disagrees with it. And now we're in a really beautiful place where she prays for me and my patients, and not in a you're going to hell way, but in I want you to be safe and I want you to be held. She still thinks abortion is a sin. Every once in a while worries about my soul. And I thank her for that. I thank her for worrying about me. But she's also deeply proud of me. And when I actually went to tell her that I was going to do all trimester care, I thought it was going to be another situation. And she goes, yeah, no, I totally get that. I hear that. So she had moved as well. And so, yeah, I think having those conversations were really important. And it happened over time and it was not a linear process, but understanding her as a person and where she was coming from was critical to realizing that we actually have a lot of shared values and that we can differ on some things. I mean, she lives with me now. She walks around the neighborhood in her Planned Parenthood shirt with her walker. She's in a totally different place now, but it's been a journey.
We are so grateful to listeners of the podcast and the fact that you've humored us for 2 seasons as we nerd out about various aspects of abortion care.
We have some very loyal listeners that have reached out over time and really inspire us to keep doing this work because you guys keep listening.
We are always happy to hear listener feedback at outlawedpodcast@gmail.com. You can call the hotline, which is 919-442-8101. We're really excited about some of the episodes that we have planned for the fall. Bev, tell us about them.
So we're going to do a couple of short series. One series about IUDs and pain, partly because we're both researchers who care about IUD pain and improving experience for patients. And it's something that people are talking about a lot right now. So we have that series coming out.
We also have a series where we're going to dive into the effects of Dobbs on training. Dobbs has had huge effects on training, and we're going to try to give the perspective of trainees, of educators, and of the organizations that are charged with giving board certification, making sure that professional OBGYNs are ready to practice.
And then we are going to continue to talk to scientists, advocates,
and experts. We hope that you will sign up for the Substack this summer. It is
outlawed.substack.com. We'll have some additional essays and information and fun videos over the summer on social media and on the Substack. And we'll continue to comment on current events and keep you up to date.
Please like, subscribe, share, do all those things that people do. We appreciate all the reviews we get.
And have a good conversation with someone that you know and love about abortion.
Opinions expressed on this podcast are our own.
Philanthropy helps support this podcast, and you can continue to support our work ad-free by making a donation using the link on the show notes.
Tax deductible. This podcast is produced by us, Dr. Jonas Swartz, Dr. Beverly Gray, and Stevie Manning. We're grateful to the musicians who contributed music to the podcast: Maker, Nick Thorburn, Patrick Ford.
And thanks to all of our guests from the second season who have made this show what it is.
Keep listening, y'all. 919-442-8101.
Have a good summer.